looks like we have quite a few people here present, for the public comment portion of the meeting. Thank you so much for everyone who is coming here to talk to us. It helps us a lot to hear directly from members of the community. Because of the numbers, we respectfully request that each commenter do their best to finish it within 5 minutes. Let's see, we as a board will not respond to commenters, but we absolutely will be listening. And then we also ask that other members of the public do not respond to the person commenting. And then other than that, and this meeting will be recorded to make sure we don't miss anything. I believe someone's phone is going to record it, make sure that we can review it if we need to. All right. Yes, sir?
Could the board introduce themselves? I don't even know who's on the board.
Yeah, we should.
I was just gonna say that.
I'm chairman, I'm Kimberly Hibble, I used to be Kimberly Good.
I'm Nancy Pearson. And I used to be Nancy McKee. Pretty long ago.
I'm Danielle England, used to be Tanner.
And I'm Janet Worrell, I'm from the Loma area.
Nona Danruther from Big Sandy.
This is Emily Wicks, and you're serving as secretary, taking notes? So, do not enter any emails, she's taking notes for the meeting. Let's see, does anyone have a, yes, please.
Yep, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, pass this out to, if you wouldn't mind. I am Robert Scribner, and I am here, this is a public disclosure. I am here as a concerned citizen, mother and grandmother, and for full disclosure, I'm a commissioner on the Montana State Library Commission, but I'm not here in any way, I'm not here in that capacity, and I'm not here today representing the Montana State Library or the Montana State Library Commission in any way, shape, or form, and I would like to have that put in the minutes also, please.
So you're here just as an individual?
I'm here as an individual.
Well, should we begin left to right for public comment? Yes, our left, would you like to begin, sir?
Not necessarily, but thank you kindly anyway.
All right. Miriam?
Sure. I guess I didn't come prepared with a letter, but that would have been smart. But I am here as a mother. I have young children, and so I just want to voice my concerns that when my children go to the library, they're not seeing things or coming across things that I wouldn't want them to come across without, me bringing it to their attention and talking to them about it. So I want to go into the library feeling safe that we're not going to have conversations that I wouldn't want to have at their ages when they're so young.
And could I get your name?
Kirsten Brady from Highwood.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Would you like to speak?
Sure. My name is Whitney Bonmiller, and I'm also from Highwood. I kind of want to, what's the word, not jump on your coattails, but reflect the same kind of concern that Kirsten's talking about. As a mother and as a taxpayer, I haven't been to the library in recent years because my kids are pretty young. And I was looking forward to taking my kids in this summer for readings and story time, and just in the last couple weeks, some social media posts, one in particular was really disturbing to me. The kind of content that our library is not only offering, but encouraging on social media. I mean, that's how social media works. Kids, adolescents, they're scrolling through their phone, they see a post, that's what they see. So I've made a couple of phone calls voicing my concern, and I've been assured that certain books that are pushing certain agendas aren't actually offered to certain age groups, but in the library building itself, I don't know if that's true or not, but when you see it on social media and that's the one post and that's the one thing that every demographic is seeing, that concerns me a lot. Also, when I was looking through, I started looking into the library account online. There seems to be 2 different accounts on Instagram for the library that, at least that promotes what the library, is happening. So I was a little confused about why there's 2 different accounts. Anyway, they both are identifying pronouns for the library as they, them, which doesn't make any sense to me that this kind of agenda would be taken on in a public taxpayer forum as a building, but even as a building, that it would have to be described with they, them pronouns. So I think that's not only confusing to me, but that's going to be very confusing to youth that sees that, anyone who sees that. That's since I see been amended, so I don't know if it's been addressed, but that was concerning to me as well. I also just kind of want to touch on the safety of, I've heard that the library needs to be a safe place for kids of all beliefs to come and, you know, learn and read, and I totally agree with that. And if there are any safety issues that need to be addressed, then I would trust that the board addresses those. Just because books of, and the content that I'm concerned with is sexualized content for children. I'm really concerned about that, and I don't see how that's a safety issue, that the library should be promoting these kind of books in the name of safety. I would almost argue, well, I would argue that, to me, that feels like a very unsafe place when sexualized content is being offered to children, not only in the library building, but on social media for sure. That, I don't like that. I think that almost encourages them to be confused, and confusion begets insecurity, and then that insecurity can be both physically and psychologically, and that insecurity can lead to somebody feeling unsafe. So when it comes to the safety of the library, I do want to point out that there are two ways to look at library safety. And if having content with of the sexualized nature available to kids is considered safety, I definitely disagree with that point of view. Those are my concerns. Thank you for hearing.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming.
I'm Barb Ludeman from Geraldine, and I'm just here as a grandparent, actually, and I'm a great-grandparent now. But I just agree with everything this young lady said. I'll save time and I won't repeat it, but it is a sexual content that I'm concerned about, that the young people are looking at.
I'm Sandy Ludeman from Geraldine, and I'm here as a mother and grandmother and a concerned citizen, just finding out, you know, what is happening in our library.
I'm Nancy Penwell, an educator for 37 years, and I'm really concerned with what the young children are being offered. I agree with the young lady and what she's concerned about. I think the children are being exposed to things that aren't necessary at their young age. And I think we need to be very cautious.
Thank you. Ms. Griffin?
And I agree with Nancy.
Okay.
Yep.
I pass on to this lady right here.
Ms. Powell?
So, Christy Bile, from Fort Benton, and, I actually there was 2 people that got called into work that couldn't make it as well. So they had something that they would like me to share with you as well, if the board permits that.
Yes.
It will not be over 5 minutes, probably all of ours in total, so, okay. And I did type mine out. I do not like speaking in front of people like this, so I will just keep to my notes so that I could be clear to what I have for my ideas. For those that don't know me, my name is Christy Bile. I live in Fort Benton and I work at the Chouteau County Courthouse in the Treasurer's Office. I'm here today to express my concerns regarding the management of the Fort Benton Library. Before I share those, I would like to say I have always treated all people with respect and kindness, and I'm challenging everyone here to do the same. I have 3 main concerns that I would like to bring to the Board of Trustees' attention. 1, the safety and inclusion of all library patrons. 2, the showcasing of sexually explicit and LGBTQ+ books. 3, the professionalism of the library staff. 1, the library should provide an all-inclusive environment where everyone is welcome and feels safe. The cat that resides at the library is a safety concern for those in the community that have severe allergies to cats. I personally know families that will not enter the library due to the severity of their allergies. When this concern was brought to the staff's attention, it was dismissed with the reply, and I quote, "The plants have more allergens than the cat," unquote. The lack of care and concern that this suggests is disappointing. I am suggesting that they find a new home for the cat so that all families can safely enjoy the library. My second concern, the showcasing of sexually explicit and LGBTQ+ books. I have learned and seen that there is a selection of books that are or have been showcased that shouldn't be. Books that contain graphic images of sexual acts, books describing coming of age and masturbation, explicit LGBTQ+ relationships, to name a few. The books are not in question. The showcasing, even pushing of these books is my concern. Please do not misinterpret what I am saying. I do not believe in banning books. I strongly believe in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, where every person has the right to freedom of speech, expression, religion, including what they read. However, I do not believe that these books should be in plain view. I am suggesting for the protection of the innocence of our children and the consideration of others that do not share in the same social views, these books would be placed in an area that is designated, away from, and secured so that our kids would not be able to look through them. There are limitations to what children are allowed to watch at the movies. You have to be 21 to watch pornography. This rule should be the same for sexually explicit books. The library should be a safe place for our children to go and enjoy themselves, exploring the world through pages, not having their innocence stolen. And number 3, the professionalism of the library staff. The position of librarian, as well as the library staff, are positions of service to the people of Chouteau County. I too am in a position of service to the taxpayers of Chouteau County. It is my job to serve the people with kindness and respect, regardless of their social, political, or religious views. At the end of the day, I do not go on social media and post passive-aggressive or even aggressive memes about the people that I serve. I maintain a high level of professionalism on and off the job because I am a representative of Chouteau County. I have seen posts that are grievous to me from the staff and other community members just because they do not share the same views. Hate is a poison. Do not give into it. Treat others with respect and kindness. If you have different views, that is okay, but please don't push them on me or my children. I will show you the same respect. In conclusion, someone told me before the meeting a few days ago when I was suggesting that I would come and speak to you that you wouldn't ever be able to resolve our differences or come to an agreement. And that may be true, but we can agree to disagree and continue to show each other respect and kindness.
Thank you.
The next letter is from James Carlson from Fort Benton. Dear Board, Peter Hathaway Capstick is one of the greatest African big game hunters of all time. In fact, he became so proficient in tracking and hunting lions that many African governments hired him to track down and dispose of the known man-eating lions that were preying on people in the remote villages across the Serengeti. Needless to say, by the time Peter Capstick retired, he was the foremost expert on lion behavior and habits. One thing he noted will stay with me forever, and that is the fact that hardly anyone survives a mauling by a lion. This may seem obvious, but Capstick goes on to explain that most victims of lion mauling will survive even up to a week after being mauled. Of course, if the lion wishes to kill you immediately, and if he's feeling hungry, he will most certainly do that. But why the prolonged death? Because in an overwhelmingly majority of lion attacks, It is not blood loss or blunt force trauma that kills the victim, rather it is infection. An adult male lion can carry literally pounds of rotting flesh under its claws. That rot is transferred to the open wounds of the lion's victim, and is in an environment with little to no medical attention, the infection will spread and kill the person unfortunate enough to have a face to main encounter with Simba. By now you're probably asking, what is the point? The point is analogous to this meeting's agenda. I graduated high school in 2003. In that year, tolerance was what was preached from the pulpit of the progressives. We were to tolerate alternative lifestyles. Sounds nice enough, yet in less than 20 years, the progressive gospel has gone from tolerance to acceptance, from acceptance to embracing, from embracing to celebrating, and from celebrating to promoting. The Overton window has shifted so quickly that if a progressive from 2003 was transported to our current social environment, they'd probably be called a bigot, or even more trendy insult, a fascist. In 2014, when the ban on homosexual marriages was deemed unconstitutional, people laughed and mocked when I said, give it 10 years and there will be a movement to normalize pedophilia. Oops, I just used hate speech. It's no longer kosher to say pedophilia. It is younger attracted person. Simply put, it isn't the mauling that's hurting us, it's the infection. Please don't put our children at risk. Books that target children and promote the LGBTQ+ agenda is the first step in a long process to normalize pornography and genital mutilation, various forms of sexual perversion in the minds of our children. Does this sound extreme? A gay pride parade committee just canceled its own event in Florida when they were informed children wouldn't be allowed to attend. Introducing a so-called harmless book to the library sections dedicated to elementary age students is step one in ensuring it will be easier for a parade to celebrate male-on-male BDSM as it throws candy to cheering children, or for the library's next scheduled event to include drag queen story hour. I know many of you on the board consider yourselves to be religious. Good deal. Then allow me to quote Jesus, who the Bible shows repeatedly had a special place in his heart for children. And Jesus says in Matthew chapter 18 that if anyone causes a little child to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and be drowned in the depth of the sea. Jesus took the treatment of children very seriously. And if you can't claim to believe in him, as I know some of you do, then you need to believe in what he said. Don't be responsible for exposing children to pornography or aiding in the normalization of genital mutilation, or anything being promoted by the LGBTQ+ crowd. Take a stand. Don't worry about being on the right side of history. Worry about being on the right side of Jesus the King, who is reigning as we speak, who has given you authority over the network of Chouteau County libraries. At the end of the day, you won't answer to parents, you'll answer to him. Please make the right decision, prevent the infection, and do your part to stop the slow death of our children's innocence. Thank you for your time. Very respectfully, James Carlson. This is from his wife, Brooke Carlson of Fort Benton. Dear Library Board and Library Director, in a recent Chouteau County Library Instagram post, we were presented with a new book, Heartstoppers. The caption read as follows: regular boys doing regular things. There was a comment asking people why this was so offensive. Here is my reason. Kids are always trying to belong. K-12 is basically a journey of discovering yourself and finding a friend, even just one, to like you for who you are. Kids go to great lengths to be liked by their peers, often to a fault. Sit down with any kid after school and you might be surprised by what happens on the playground in the spirit of fitting in. Along with this, kids are navigating home life, dipping their toe in the water via extracurriculars, learning about their growing bodies, and with our technology-infatuated world, their brains are struggling to keep up. Enter the push of LGBTQ+ literature. Most of these kids have just figured out how to wipe themselves in the bathroom, and they're being introduced to confusing sexual content. And with their desire to fit in and be regular, these kids feel like they need to make a decision on these issues as young children. My two oldest children are in school. My second grader was told by a boy that he wasn't included playing with a group of boys because he wasn't gay. I know this child personally, and he does not display any attraction to anyone. Perhaps he is being told that he should be a regular boy doing regular things. My third grade daughter was told by one girl that people can change their gender via surgery. This type of information and content is completely inappropriate for this age group. And yet, not only is it acceptable, but there is a group in town that is attempting to regularize this literature for children. This agenda was evidenced by the invitation to decorate the Great Pride Parade float after summer reading session. The summer reading program was set to be very successful this year. My business happily donated to it and would have continued if last summer didn't transpire the way that it did. I realized that I had two options. One, remain peaceful and stop using the library altogether, or two, incessantly complain about the literature and activities deemed acceptable for children. We decided to cease using the library altogether. Instead, we spend hundreds of dollars purchasing books to appease our daughter's voracious reading habits. Our children lost out on a truly wonderful experience of small town life, spending summer days reading at the library and checking out books. I know it's been said that parents that are concerned should just accompany their children to the library to censor what they read. Although that is valid, and for many that is practical, in a small town there is a gift that comes with having bike riding age children. When a child can ride their bike to and from the school and to soccer practice, to the library before the pool opens, and then to the pool and over to the freeze to buy a cone with their chore money, it opens up a beautiful independent childhood. And although all of us who have kids this age know it's not without dangers, we trust that fellow parents will treat our children with care when they see them around town. When the public library decided to introduce controversial books into circulation and encourage children to participate in decorating an LGBTQ+ float, they violated that unspoken trust that we have in a small community. This desire to sexualize our children is disguised by the desire for inclusivity. We want our youth to have resources as they navigate life, and realistically, not all kids have parents who seek out intentional conversations. So are the books for them? While inclusivity and care are well and good, we have to ask ourselves, will a moral line ever be allowed to be drawn? When we approach the topics of what books are deemed acceptable in a public library, inevitably the term book banning and the example of the Soviet Union is brought up in an attempt to intimidate anyone from censoring content. But let's get the facts straight. The Soviet Union wanted to force their values on people, not censor immoral content. Having a moral line, to which the public libraries do not cross, is not forcing a particular viewpoint on the community, it's creating a line of morality that we, as being an accepted thing, that as a community we can agree on. 10 years ago my husband said, I bet you that in 10 years pedophilia will be an acceptable thing. Here we are 10 years later, and the term pedophile is now deemed offensive, and instead minor attracted person is considered PC. The UN is attempting to decriminalize having sex with a minor as we speak. It is all coming to pass, and so there must be a line to which we censor material. Otherwise, up next will be children's books about how an adult neighbor likes to cuddle and how he taught me how to make him feel good. We are very close to this happening, and refusing to acknowledge this is naive. Our culture approves of homosexual stripteases in front of children and gay pride parades, drag queen story hour, and provocative fashion shows, and teaching kids about sexuality in preschool. Up next will be pedophilia and the continuation of sexualizing our children. I've heard it said that we can't bring religion into the discussion, and it seems that we have paralyzed quite a few people into taking action. I would like to remind the board that there is no neutral ground. Everyone has a religion. Some worship God, and if not, a myriad of other things our culture finds enticing. So no matter where you stand on this issue, it is a religious issue. As a Christian, I know that God's way is best. A lot of things that God commands in the Bible are for loving purpose of keeping us happy and holy. And the things God condemns will receive the judgment of God. So although we can argue philosophically or come to a compromise, the truth still remains. If you choose to allow these materials in our public library, in 10 years or less, you will have the same question to ask yourselves. Can we censor pedophilia material in the culture says it's acceptable now? It's been said the second crime scene is always worse than a first. It means that if you stop an abduction, the first crime scene, you'll prevent the rape. A second crime scene, you stop the rape, you will stop the murder, the third crime scene. The choice is yours. Do you agree with the community who voted you into your roles to stand firm for your convictions, or are you worried about looking religious or biased, that you will end up favoring a different religion, the one presented by these books? While our children are navigating life and are at their most vulnerable, let's treasure their childhood instead of sacrificing them on the altar of progress. While there may be few vocal people in the community who want to introduce these sexual ideas to our children, the majority do not approve of these LGBTQT+ books. And for these reasons, we ask that the Chouteau County Library ceases using county funds to purchase and advertise books of this nature and other sexually explicit content. My parents raised me to love people. It wasn't rare to be surrounded by a bunch of strangers at Thanksgiving dinner, many of whom were foreign exchange students who didn't speak English. We welcomed anyone to our home, loved them, cared for them, sometimes giving them entire sections of our house. My parents also raised me to hold a standard, the Bible. They raised us to love God, believe His word, and to be bold in our belief. They lived most of their lives without knowing God, and I believe their veracity for the truth was because they knew what life was like without Him. Because of their early adulthood in following their heart, they knew where it ended, in destruction. And for that reason, they shielded us. I would say I was very sheltered, but even though I wasn't exposed to much, I saw much of the world inside our home. My family loved them, and I learned that regardless of someone's life choices, they should be loved. And I think that's where we can all agree. Everyone deserves love, to be loved, to be heard, to have meaning and purpose, and to feel secure. That's how God designed us. We can also agree that there are boundaries to what is right and what is wrong. We can usually agree on things like murder, rape, child abuse, and the standards seem to be constantly changing. The only standard that doesn't change is God's word. The creator of the universe is always right, and we go contrary to His word, it will always lead to destruction. And of course, that is where we disagree. Your newly amended mission statement states that the library will provide reliable information without restrictions or censorship. Let me ask, based on what? On what standard are you not censoring? Do we allow radical Islamic material calling for the murder of the infidel? What about white supremacist literature with violent manifestos? What about Playboy? What about sexually explicit adult novels? By what standard are we judging books? Because restriction and censorship does not happen. The standard keeps changing. The next crime scene will be more gruesome than the first. So who are you serving? Because there is no neutral ground. Very respectfully, Court Carlson.
Thank you.
Do you want to read some more, or
Well, I think we still have public comment.
Okay.
While I agree with all of the women's, comments, I, just wanna reiterate my allergy to cats and how severe it is. My daughter wanted to go to the bats, thing, but I can't be in there longer than 5 minutes. One example of my allergy is I had a customer come in with like 5 or 6 titles, and like second one in, I had like reached up and wiped my eye or something, and all of a sudden I started having a reaction, and I said, "Do you have cats?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I can tell," and I ended up handing them off to another clerk because I am that allergic. So removing the cat was the option I was given, like call ahead and put it in an office, and that actually just doesn't work because the several times I've been in there, the cat has actually, like my daughter like starts hyperventilating because she knows I'm allergic, and she's like, "Mom, it's coming for you." I was actually checking out books, and it like walked across the counter on our books, and I was like, "It's okay, honey, we'll wash our hands when we get back home." Like, I don't make a big deal of it. I don't mind animals. I love animals of all kinds. And I think that an animal in the library is a great idea, and I know in the past they've had birds and they've had turtles or fish, and I think that is different because it's contained, it's not just running all around. I mean, I can't even fathom at the courthouse if we had like a resident cat. Like, it's a public place, like it's not a private counseling office or a private attorney's office that you know when you go there, his dog's laying on the floor. It is a public building, and I should feel comfortable coming to the bats and coming to the different programs. So it is a big deal. It is a very big deal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Paul Dostal, lifetime resident of Geraldine. I haven't gone on social media to see what's the library's advertising or, you know, putting up there, so I haven't looked at any of that. I don't spend a lot of time on, or very little time on, or maybe none on social media. But it came to my attention here recently that there are some books that people are objecting to in the library, exposing young people to, and of course, what age. So I don't even have the name of the book, but recently got a book from the library. It was about 2 boys in high school in love, and it talked about them kissing and different things. I read the book, thought it was a wonderful book, thought it was greatly written. I thought there's some very good explanation in there about one of the boys has an eating disorder, and there's a lot of explanation about how his boyfriend wants to help him, and the mother's saying, and a counselor saying you can't solve, another person's issues, and we do that, in relationships a lot of times. And that other things in this book, I thought that was very well written. There was no sex in the book, there was no nudity. Yes, there was a 16 and 17-year-old kissing, which if you had a book about a 16 and 17-year-old girl, I would think that might not be unobjectable to somebody, that, a 16-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy kissing. I've got no objection to showing 16 and 17-year-old boy kissing. That's me. I wish I was not exposed to any of this stuff when I was in high school. I graduated in 71. I wish I had been. Looking back, there was people that was in school when I was there that I found out years later that were gay, and they got no support from any of us. People made fun of the person's gay, there's gotta be something wrong with them. I don't believe that. I don't believe in promoting anything. I don't believe in the library saying, or anybody saying that, yeah, you should be gay or shouldn't be gay. I don't believe in promotion. But to say it's there and to have a book that, somebody that's gay or not gay that wants to read about it. I'm reading a book now about Stalin and Hitler that I would be much more concerned about young people reading of what's going on in Ukraine back in 1941 and the horrors going on there that this book is describing. I would be much more concerned about my grandchildren, and I have grandchildren, reading some of that, at a younger age than I would this other book. But I'm reading it because I think it's a historical book. I'm learning from this book. But I wouldn't, I'd be very concerned about a younger child reading this book, especially without at least, me discussing it with them. So there's lots of books that can be objectionable, but, so like I said, I don't believe in the library should be promoting anything, but to having it there, I'm all for it, absolutely.
I'm Jerry Dostal, and I came here today mostly to see what other people are concerned about, and also to say that I also read one of the books in the series, and I guess I feel like all people need to be recognized and heard, and I feel like there's many different groups of people that come to the public library, and especially in teenage years, I think it's important that you feel seen and heard and recognized. And if this book series helps any teenager to feel that, then I think that's a positive thing.
Hi, I'm Nancy LaChapelle. I've read all of the books in the Heartstopper series, and I think they're about teenage relationships, which are sometimes, odd and distressing and angst-ridden. I object to people saying that these books don't belong in the library, because there are people that are gay. There are people that are in all of those categories, and they live in our communities, and there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to go into the library and see themselves and check out books that deal with things that they're trying to deal with. I don't think that the library ever promotes that kind of literature to small children who wouldn't understand it or are not in a place where they're dealing with that kind of thing. But suicide is the second leading cause of death in 10 to 24-year-olds in this country. And LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to commit suicide, and part of that is because they're not seen, or they're backburnered. I like that, backburnered. They're just they're bullied in school a lot. And the library is a place where they're not getting bullied. They're seeing things about themselves or that they may be feeling. A book is not gonna make anybody gay. A book is not gonna reverse the years of religious training that the parents have given the child. It's just not gonna happen. And historically, there's always gotta be a scapegoat group in our society. You know, early on it was the Irish, no Irish need apply. Then it was the blacks, so we don't want any blacks here. It was the Jews, it was the Islamic people who are all terrorists. And now it's the LGBTQ community, the trans kids, the people who are suffering because they're really being discriminated against. And I think this too shall pass, much like we're way more accepting of all of these other groups at this point. But this is a realization that often comes to kids in their teenage years. And that's when they're most vulnerable. And so what's gonna be the price to pay for continuing to put them through this struggle until we get to the point where, yes, they're not gonna be the scapegoats anymore. There are lots of books in every library that deal with things that are way more heinous than LGBTQ culture. And the library is not promoting, encouraging children to be gay. The library is encouraging children to be open-minded and accepting. Organized religion in itself is kind of dinosaur. I mean, numbers are declining. People are most often not affiliated with the religion these days, and I feel like this struggle that they've taken up, which is heavily focused on the LGBTQ community, is their effort to try to make themselves more relevant by appealing to the intolerant, the prejudice, and the fear. I have personally witnessed inaccuracies being promoted in public, excuse me, about activities at the library. I was in charge of the Gay Pride float at the parade, at the Fort Bend Parade last summer. It had nothing to do with the library. It was never, it had nothing to do with the library. I did that as an individual and have since started a community of allies for LGBTQ people in the community. They were never, the summer reading children were never asked to decorate the float. The float was never brought up to the summer reading children. I can name the 5 people that were there that decorated the float, as it was parked on a public street. And my response to that is, I was there. And if you all were not there, then don't make comments about something that you don't know is true. I'm not from here. I don't have a long history of my name used to be such and such. My name has always been LaChapelle. But I find it hard.
I'm sorry, I thought we weren't supposed to be commenting on things.
We're not supposed to be interrupting the speakers, but.
Okay, but I was just thinking that we weren't
Like
having back
interrupting
and
like
forth.
that.
Yeah. We're almost done.
I've almost used up my 5 minutes. But the problem is when someone brings up something that's not true and spreads it around to the community, then the people who have the truth or know the truth are stuck in a position where they're trying to stamp out fires and put Band-Aids on things. And it elevates the whole situation to a he said, she said, when it really is not a he said, she said. It's a lie and truth situation. And I think this is part of
the religious communities, I think this is a strategy that they use to put things that are untrue or intolerant out there and then make the people that have the truth defend themselves. And they use that to undermine things, and that's just my opinion.
Thank you. No comment? Would anyone else like to?
I would, oh, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm the assistant director of the library. You can come and tell us any of these things at any time and we will listen to you. So, I'd like to address some of the common misconceptions about what is done at the library. First of all, we care very much about the children's safety. Only age-appropriate books are in the children's section. If you find something that is not age-appropriate, please alert us. Sometimes things get disheveled. It happens. Sometimes someone will bring a book from the other room and put it in there and forget about it. It happens. There are no sections of the library that are age-restricted. A child can check out a book in the adult section and vice versa. Most young adult books are checked out by adults. When a child checks out a book that may be above their age level, we will tell them, hey, this might have some stuff in it that you're not ready for. I'll still check it out to you, but I just want to give you a heads up. 9 times out of 10, the child will say, oh, okay, I'll put it back. Like it's not even a thing. And that'll be it. Beyond that, we are not their parents and will not deny any patron a book based on its contents. We can't know the contents of every book. We also can't know what each family's values are. We just can't assume that. Second, I want to address some of the hubbub about last year. Yes, I put on a display featuring LGBTQ people in the adult, young adult, and children's sections. This was not the first time I have done this, but it was certainly the largest in the children's section with a whopping 10 books featuring either straight up LGBTQ people or non-gender conforming situations. So like a boy who's nervous because he's in ballet. Most, but not all, of these books, that there are fewer than 20 books in the children's section that could fall under this category. Most, but not all, have rainbow stickers on them. The ones that don't are either obviously so, such as Prince and Knight, aren't necessary to the plot, or are up to interpretation. That being said, I'm very sorry if anyone felt threatened by these books. We are not trying to push a gay agenda. The fact is, we are trying to show children that we have resources for any of them who are confused about their feelings, their friend's family situation, or what they are hearing adults say. They are all age appropriate. Are they for everyone? No, but they are available for those who need them. The other controversy last year was the parade float. The library did not have a float last year. We just didn't. My sister and I, who have been in charge of summer reading for the last 5 years or so, have done 2 parades. One in 2019, where we walked the length of the parade, and one in 2021, where we decorated a trailer and had a few summer reading kids on it. We decided after that we were gonna do one again because it was time consuming and it was just like, oh, it was not fun. It was also hard to find children who weren't already participating on another float. Instead, I, as a private citizen, as well as my husband, decided to be on the first ever Allies float. 3 children were on the float. 2 of them were Emily's kids, mostly because she's like, get on the float. And the third was a child who we invited to be on the float. This child wanted to walk the entire length of the parade holding a giant trans flag, and we feared for their safety, and we said, come on the float. This is where you're not gonna get kicked here. I understand that it was confusing to see the local library on a gay pride float. There was 0 mention of the library, unless you count my sign that said, ban bigots, not books. But really, that can just be a general thing. There was also another county employee involved.
Not once did we ever tell the summer reading kids that this was a library float, or that they had to participate or decorate it. I do wonder if I had been on any other float associated with a certain ideology, that this would have even been an issue. The third issue is collection development. As I said before, we try to keep everything as age appropriate as possible. Several years ago, I found some of the author Chuck Palahniuk's books, which, if you know, you know, in the young adult section, where I would never, ever put them there. I immediately recataloged them and moved them to the adult section. I base a lot of where a book goes on how other libraries in the state put them. That being said, there are times when I am unsure of where exactly to put a book. In these cases, I will ask a patron to read the book and let me know if it should be in juvenile fiction or young adult, or young adult, or adult. A lot of this also depends on how the book is marketed. If a series is being sold in the young adult section of a store and is in the young adult section in other libraries, I'm going to put that book in the young adult section. Particularly racy books, for the most part, have a rated R sticker on them. Like we are trying to be like, hello, this is mostly likely for adults. And as I said before, if someone comes in and checks out these books, we will let them know that they have mature elements. Most of the time, the person checking out these specific books know what they're getting into, and once again, we are not their parents. Another part of the collection development is considering which books to add to the library. Items can be requested, suggested, or donated. We also look at literature reviews and bestseller lists. We can't guarantee that every book will be purchased. Items obtained are dependent on availability and price. We also consider how many books on this subject we already have, and whether or not we needed a book on the opposing view. I know people have the perception that the library offers only left-leaning materials. I would like to point out that often the right-leaning materials are checked out. So you're seeing the left stuff there. Having a book in the library's collection doesn't mean the librarians endorse that book or its ideology. It's just available for whoever wants to read it. Flash in the pan books about one specific politician aren't likely to be relevant in 5 years, let alone one. So it's not fiscally responsible to acquire all these books, nor is it beneficial to the collection if we have to take it out in a short amount of time. I would also like to point out that we only hear about books and displays that someone disagrees with. I put out multiple displays throughout the library on a variety of topics. I heard plenty about how evil the pride displays were in June, but I heard nothing about the books on motherhood and prenatal health in May. People see what they want to see. The fourth and final point I want to make is that libraries are for everyone. I truly understand that a lot of you feel that you're being outcasted. That is not our intent. I would like all of you to understand that there are people in this community who genuinely do not feel safe anywhere, and they too have the right to see themselves in the library. If you feel uncomfortable with certain ideals being presented, I don't know what to tell you other than talk to your children about why these do not align with your family values. The library does not belong to one type of patron. We are being told we are pushing a certain agenda. Highlighting a marginalized group of people is not an agenda. My only agenda is to uphold the standards, policies, and values of the American Library Association, Montana State Library, and the Chouteau County Library System. If you find that I'm not doing my job in accordance with these organizations, please let me know so I may correct that. I understand not everyone is going to be happy with the library. I don't expect that outcome. I do expect people to understand that a library has information on as many topics as possible for every age range available. Thank you.
I have one question. Listening to y'all over on this side and the librarian and I don't have issues with the LB. I'm sorry, I just call it the alphabet. The alphabets. I don't have issues with that. Just so long as it's not, shoved in my face and whatnot. I'm sorry, I'm Jan McBee. I'm from Geraldine.
All right, thank you.
My thing is I am 60. Circle K, 7-Eleven, I don't know what y'all have up here, Town Pump, and see Playboy without a brown paper wrap around it. And you had to be old to get it. I don't have a problem with them saying, you know, hey, this is how I felt when I became gay. I don't even know if you're supposed to say that word or not, but anyways, this is what you're supposed, I don't want the how-to. I don't want my grandchildren to come in and pick up a book that shows them how to use a butt plug. First of all, they're way too young. They don't need a how-to on this. That's what the marriage night is for. That is for mom to tell the kids. It is, that I don't believe is to be put in the libraries, the how-tos. That's what I don't like. The other stuff, I have several friends that are gay. One of them was my aunt, my uncle, and my niece. So I'm okay with this, but it isn't for everybody. I get that, but the thing that brought me here was the how-tos. I don't want a book from a pedophile, and I don't care what they say. You can't call him that. He's a pedophile. I don't want a how-to from a pedophile. I don't want a how-to from a rapist. This is how you know. It's bad enough they get it on the internet. I don't want them to come and sit down here and say, oh, look, I can kidnap this woman and string her up and torture her and oh, here, let me put this book back on the shelf so someone else can read it. That's what I don't want to see in the libraries. I'm not for banning books. I think it is really bad, but I do think there should be a selection of books. Like I said, Playboy, Hustler, all them things, they have paper wraps on them. I don't even know if they make them anymore since everything's accessible on the internet. But they're all behind the counter, you know, with the cigarettes, the liquor, in the convenience stores and whatnot. It's not, you can't go into the public library in Arizona and pick up a Playboy or Hustler or, you know, that's pornography.
There's limits.
I'm sorry, that's my husband. There's limits, but I don't want pornography in my library. That's just it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janine Malser Rodriguez, from Fort Benton, and I would have to say that I agree with both sides of the things. I don't agree with showcasing these books. I don't agree with having them out and forward for young children to see, and describing them as just a normal boy in a normal town and a normal this and whatnot. And not to say that LGBTQ is not normal or abnormal. I don't, that labeling something is not what I'm here for, but as an aunt, and as someone who looks, you know, I'm tattooed, I'm outspoken, I'm outgoing, that looks like I would be not conservative. I still am pretty conservative with my views in the sense that I don't want my young nieces and nephews, I don't want them kissing at 15 or 16. I don't want them reading about it in a book at that age. And I think that there should be like an age appropriate section to piggyback off of what you said, in the sense of I grew up in that era too. I'm old enough to have been in a 7-Eleven where their Playboys had the brown paper bags over them and things like that. But I think that there should be a section, an adult section, and I don't think that we should be, I know it's hard for the librarians to quote unquote parent the children per se, but I think that there should be an 18 and older section, and then if said child has any questions about who he or she is, then they can ask their parents to come to the library with them and check out those books from that section. I think that conversation with your kid about who they are is encouraged. And I think that, that's something that should be encouraged, you know, but that's for each person in their home to deal with how they deal with. I don't think that it should be, something that's out in the open for young eyes to read on accident, or if they were told, because I'm sorry, I was a child, when my mom and dad said no, I still went and did it because I was curious, right? We all know it, we all done it, but curiosity killed the cat. So let's not let's nip it in the bud and have like a section where they can go to, or have an adult come and check out the books with them, would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
I think one quick, I don't believe that this section is saying ban
Yeah,
books.
no.
Yeah, do you agree? Yeah, I don't believe they're saying ban books.
Absolutely not. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, quick follow-up, nobody in this section, myself, are promoting, pedophilia or rape or any of that either. I mean, we're not promoting that whatsoever, right? I mean, that's pornography, yeah, that's,
No, we're not saying
But
that.
I-
right, okay, just making
I
sure.
don't know if we'll get through all this if we
Yeah,
start
no,
fighting
that's,
each
yeah,
other.
okay,
I think there's been a lot of things said and
yeah,
we'll have
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
yeah, no,
I just don't want a book that shows how to.
That's,
Yeah.
there is one more
I got
person
you.
that hasn't spoken yet. Yes, sir?
Okay.
Oh, there's two, sorry.
My name's Steve Nelson, and compared to the other letters, mine is a little blunt and rough around the edges, so we'll see if we can get through this. What do I know, and why should you listen to me? Why all this fuss over a book that has been in the library for over a year, from what I understand? Who am I? My name is Steve Nelson. I used to live in Southern California. I have worked right down on the streets of Skid Row in Los Angeles. I was there during the Rodney King riots. I have traveled this country, lived by peaceful lakes in Virginia, and in the all-black ghettos in South Carolina. I have built hospitals and schools in many major cities. I live here in Fort Benton, in this quiet little town. These books are about being gay. Long ago, it used to just be called the gay community. Now it is LGBTQIPSXA+++, and no one knows what it is. I had to look up the latest version. It used to be 3 letters, but now it is 11 and some pluses because it is never enough. So let's get back to the books. I heard that they were being showcased. I went to find out for myself if this was a fact. They were set out on a table by themselves for a while, I was told. This is where the outside world comes in. It used to be that when an 8-year-old girl wore some overalls and a baseball cap backward, she was a tomboy, and it would eventually grow out of it. Today, there is an army of trans people who are more than willing to get this same child the help she needs. With puberty blocks and a double mastectomy at that young age, if they can, they will do this without the parents' consent. Just last week, the House of Representatives voted to ban transgender males from competing in sports against women. Joe Biden said that he would veto it. In Wisconsin last week, a trans man showered naked with 4 high school girls. His words were, "It's okay, I'm trans," as he stood there with his male parts out in front of them. It's just a book, you say? It's okay because it's popular on Netflix. That's what I was told in the library. Yes, they are just books. Yes, these are just children with young, impressionable minds. Here you have children and young adults who are confused and learning about the changes in their bodies. Well, of course they are. But then you add this. Are you non-binary, gender fluid? Would you like to change yourself? Well, who wouldn't? Maybe they think that they will be more popular. Maybe they would stand out of the crowd. I have seen where the DOD says even 7-year-olds can make these choice changes. I have seen where the DOD says even 7-year-olds can make the choice to change sexes. This is insane. Not to the LGBTQ+++ crowd. Fort Benton is a quiet little town. Let the children be children. Let them grow up and become adults with fully developed minds who can make mature decisions. All I'm saying is be careful where you tread with this, or next year you may have drag queen story hour in Fort Benton Library, just like they have in New York and Atlanta. But I am old and have some gray hair. I don't understand how someone can become a they just by saying it is so. These parents may think that this is just about one book in a library in town, but I know it is not. This will lead to the national debate on men competing against girls in your town. It is already clear in Helena, Montana. The outside world is a cancer. Do not willingly inject it in Fort Benton.
Oh, Geraldine.
I believe there's one more gentleman who would like to speak.
Yeah, Ben Cartwright. If we got a group of kids out here in the street and they've got a gun and they're shooting at cars driving by, are we not gonna go out and stop them and tell them that's not right? If they're doing drugs, shooting up, we're gonna be there to help them. That's what the majority of these people are trying to do. They're trying to help our young children to grow up in a safe and wholesome environment. Who made the comment that there's a lot of suicide between 10 and 24?
I did.
Okay, and is it trans people that are committing suicide mostly?
40% more likely are LGBTQ kids.
Okay,
Suicide.
so there's a problem there. Maybe, just maybe, that they're reading too much stuff when they're younger
I'm sure
and it's
that's it.
influencing them on their growth and causing problems. There could be a problem there. You see, everybody always looks at the problem and we're gonna correct it. When that person is 30 years old and walks into a school and starts mowing down kids and teachers, that's wrong. You can't fix the problem there. It needs to be fixed back here in their childhood. The parents need to be fixing the problem then. We can't, and it looks to me like it's a problem. Where do you want to fix the problem? When the kids are little or old? Jesus gave the last commandment in the Bible to love one another. He didn't say to pick on people, he said to love them. We're not to judge, but I'll tell you what, our Lord and Savior is the one that's going to judge. If it's in the Bible is the oldest book written. It is the oldest book. It is the instruction manual to life. And if you take and throw that out and throw this other stuff in, God have mercy on the people's souls. Because it's guaranteed there's heaven and hell. It's our choice to make the decision where we want to spend eternity. It's up to an adult to guide a little person to where he wants to spend eternity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You don't fix a problem when they're 30, you fix it when they're 1 year old. There's a problem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Larry Jordan, I got half a dozen grandkids go to Chouteau County School. Way to go, Benny. Who knew?
Amen.
I can't speak to these books because I haven't seen them, so I'm not going to attempt it. The only trouble I've ever had with a book in the Chouteau County Library in Fort Benton, across the street from my church, was a book put out by the Hemlock Society on how to successfully kill yourself. I had a brief conversation with a nice lady, I can't remember her name, her husband was a music teacher in town. You remember her? She worked at the library. This has been maybe, 20 years ago? I said, golly, I mean, I agree with this gal. I mean, suicide is pandemic in our young people. So the Chouteau County Library is going to put a book right down on this table on how they can be successful at it? Well, golly, I was, we're on the same kind of place here. reasonable people, as we all, I think we all are reasonable. Now, when a demographic decides that they are going to use specific terms within their body, I think that's their right. I mean, maybe a Ford mechanic doesn't use the same jargon as a Chevy mechanic, I don't know. But when this demographic decides that they are going to reinvent the English language for the whole society, that doesn't sound reasonable to me. That doesn't, I mean, we talk about books, but books are just plumb full of words. And when a teacher in Highwood is approached by a parent and says, no, I don't want you to have to use these pronouns, and that have been used for thousands of years, and we all understand what he, she means, but we can't call them that anymore, or else we're what, haters? I think it's time that we reasonable people come to a conclusion about how far this can go. And I think, you know, I can call myself a turnip if I want to. I can call myself the next world champion bronc rider if I want to. But I ain't one. And the thing is, this seems reasonable to me. Reasonable. We're reasonable people. We're conservative, family-loving people, no matter what side you fall on this. But there has to be a line. This far and no farther. We're not going to build another bathroom where you can use this bathroom and you can lock it. Does that not seem reasonable? That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, sir. Oh, yes, sir?
Rick Durham from Chouteau County Commissioners. We've had several people call our office about this issue in the last 2 weeks. We as commissioners don't make decisions at the library. That's the library board's decision what they do. So I want to thank the board. I want to thank all of you for coming. So call your board with your concerns.
One more? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Randy Ludeman, retired pastor of 30+ years. And first off, I want to congratulate you guys on the hard work you're doing with the library and to keep it wholesome as possible. I have a very close friend who's also a pastor in Billings. He's on the Human Trafficking Board just for Yellowstone County. And they have meetings regularly every month, and just one tomorrow, with the FBI and other federal agencies concerning human trafficking, drug trafficking, all the above. One of the things that come out of the meetings the last almost 11 months now is that there's a new drug that has taken over the United States, and it's 4 times more powerful than heroin, 4 times more addictive. It's called pornography. And so we need to be on the alert of the things that we have in our libraries. My biggest concern is not so much as our Chouteau County libraries, as much as what's in the libraries in our schools. In Billings, I can tell you awful stories of what's in the library, mainly the how-to books, from ages 1st grade on up. And so, as parents, we need to be investigating more what's in our school libraries than what's in our county libraries. And so, that's just a heads up. I have grandkids from Ukraine, Poland, Pennsylvania. And so, anywhere from the ages from 3 to 17. And our kids are very mindful and careful what they go into their school libraries, what's there. That's not good, not healthy. So far as like our Chouteau County libraries, we're heads above everyone else within our public school libraries. So as parents, check out what's in your school library.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank everyone who traveled here today to comment. It is very helpful for us to hear from people and hear firsthand. We're gonna continue with the meeting at this point. You're absolutely, everyone's welcome to stay for the whole meeting, but we will not take offense if you choose to take a break. But thank you again for everyone who came here and commented.
Thank you.
Moving on to the minutes. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes of the previous?
Take care, Benny.
Hey, Larry, good to see you. Yeah.
Does anyone have any changes to this? Motion to approve the minutes? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say aye. Did you vote? Did you vote? I said aye. Okay. Yeah. All right, minutes approved. All right. Budget.
For the Wi-Fi? No, there's no password.
Do you just have to, what do you have to do? There's no service, so they can't do emails?